Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? Good to see you guys. I'm glad that you're with us, and I want to thank you for doing that survey. If you didn't do it, I need you to. Again, it's just a survey. It's anonymous, but it really does help us understand a little bit about our community. And that's what we're going to talk about today, all right? So if you're new with us, man, thanks for coming. I'm so glad that you're here, and I definitely hope that you do get connected. But it's a perfect day for you to be here if you're new, because you're going to learn about our community today. You're gonna learn a lot about the Rock Church today. You're gonna learn a lot about how the church, and by that I mean the global church, how God designed it. So as a new person, it's a perfect time to be here. And we're doing this because we're in this series called Undecided. And Undecided is just a basics of Christianity. It's just a walkthrough of trying to figure out, what does Christianity look like? And then deciding, do I want to follow it? Do I want to be a part of it? And we've done it through this little, if I could call it this way, this University 101 type talks. And the first 5 weeks, just so you know this, the first 5 weeks I would say was like foundations. You could almost say the first 5 weeks was like being at the School of Engineering. We were doing a lot of the design, a lot of the foundations, a lot of the big rocks in the box, if you can kind of think of it that way. These next 5 weeks, think about it like you're going to the School of Humanities. That we're really going to talk about the people side of Christianity. That we're going to talk about ethics. We're going to talk about family relationships. We're going to talk about cultural studies. Today, we're going to talk about sociology. And sociology, at its base, if I could take it all the way down to its core, is the study of groups. It's the study of society, but what we have found in society is we are always about grouping up. So when you look at sociology, you're really talking about how groups interact. And all of us are part of groups. All of us form groups in our life. Let's just prove it a little bit, all right? And this is a little crowd participation. I want you to either raise your hand, or if you're a little more Pentecostal, you can get a little crazy if you want, okay? Like, rumor has it there's a big game tonight, right? There's a big game tonight. How many of you all would say that you are Team Chiefs, that you want the Chiefs to win? Oh, okay, a few of you. Now, I know some of you, and you're wearing that jersey, and you're supporting them because you're from that area of the country. Others of you, I would probably ask what's wrong with you. But how about this? How many of you all are Team Eagles, that you want the Eagles to win? If you notice, the Eagles fans are a little more obnoxious, because that's what they're known for. How about this? I'm just curious, out of those who yelled, how many of you are only rooting for the Eagles because you don't want the Chiefs to win? Exactly, right? See, we're all part of groups. Some of you will watch tonight just so you can see Taylor Swift. My wife has turned into a Kansas City Chiefs fan because of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Pray for my wife. I'm afraid of her salvation right now, okay? But all right, some of you will watch because you want the commercials. Some of you will go and watch a Super Bowl because you care about the food. Am I right? We get together. We interact in groups. And that's what we do in life. Think about it. There's groups everywhere. You have your friend group. You have your family group, you have your school group, you have your work group, you have your Facebook group, you have PTO groups, you have athletic team groups, you have political groups, that you have fraternities, you have sororities. They're all about groups. They're all about coming together. And I believe that we are all somehow connected to some kind of group for this reason. We all want to be connected to someone, some people, and something. Like that's the whole of the message today. That all of us, we have this longing to belong, but it's not just a longing to belong, it's a longing to belong to someone. Like we want to be connected to someone. We want to be connected to some people. We want to know that we have some people in our lives. We want to be connected to something that is bigger than just ourselves. Well, the beauty of the church is we are a community, and we are a community that is dedicated to connecting to someone. We're a community that is dedicated to connecting to some people, and we're a community that is committed to connecting to something bigger than ourselves. That's the way God designed the church. So I want you to see this sociology inside of the church, and I want us to look at this idea of being connected to a community and being connected to a cause. Because we're connected to the community because we want to be connected to someone and some people. And that's the way God designed us. You could go all the way back to the beginning, go all the way back to the book of Genesis. We talked about this when we did Biology 101, that when God created Adam, he said, let me also create Eve. Let me give you a suitable helper because it is not good for a man to be alone. That God created us for a relationship. He created us for a relationship with him, but then he also created us for a relationship with others. And that's the way the church is designed as well. The church is designed to connect us to him, but also to connect us with others. And the beauty of the church is this, that the church is for all people. All people. A country club is for the person who can get a sponsorship, an invite, and has enough money to pay its dues. A basketball team is for the person who has the good enough physical gifts and athletic gifts. The church is for all people. All people. Look at how it reads. It's 1 Corinthians. This is the book we've been in through our whole Undecided study. That 1 Corinthians reads like this. It says, I am writing to God's church. So let's just stop right there. That means a community. It goes on. To the church in Corinth. To you who have been called by God to be his own holy people. I mean, think about that for a second. That God has called you, he's calling all people to be his own holy, meaning set apart as a group, you're set apart people. That he's inviting you into community. He's saying, I've got a community for you. Well, who's invited? Well, look at what it says in 1 Corinthians 12. Some of us are Jews. Some of us are Gentiles, some are slaves, some are free. These are 4 different types of people. These are totally opposite types of people. You have Jews who are God's chosen people. You have Gentiles who the Jews thought were dirty scumbags that you couldn't talk to. I mean, that's how the Jews looked at the Gentile. They would say a Gentile is not an accepted person. You shouldn't eat with them. You shouldn't hang out with them. You shouldn't converse with them. They are dirty scumbags. That's the easiest way to say it. But the church brought them both together. It says some were slaves and some are free. Like some of you are literally slaves. Now, a slave back then was a little different in most times than what we often think of slaves. It was somebody who had kind of hired themselves out because they couldn't pay a debt. But bottom line, it meant that they were poor. They didn't have their own freedom. That they had a master. And then there were some who were free, meaning that they were wealthy, that they controlled their own lives. You have 4 different groups of people here. And then Paul goes on, he says this, but we have all been baptized into one body by one Spirit, and we all share the same Spirit. He's saying, even though you are vastly different, we have one thing in common. And the thing that we have in common is that Jesus has invited us into a community and given us his Spirit. So we are one. We are one. That Paul was saying the church was designed for everyone who comes from all different walks of life to come together. And I know today here in Horry County, we don't talk a lot about Jews and Gentiles anymore, but the bottom line is if you look around the room, we've got a lot of people that are different from one another, right? Like we have people who have lived here all of your life, and you are so original that you might call it Horry County. And then we have some of you that moved from the north that are so new, you've called it Horry County. And then there's some of us who have lived here long enough to go, oh, it's Horry County. We're all different, but we're all invited together. And that's the way God designed the church. For the rich, for the poor, for the black, for the white, for the ones who are educated, for the ones who are not educated, for the ones who everything in life is going great, for the one who's really struggling in life, for the one who has followed Jesus all of his life, to the one who's been raised in hell all of his life. That God designed the church for all people. All people. So everyone is welcome here because we want you to have a place to belong. And unfortunately, the church hasn't always been great at this. That there's a lot of times, and we all probably have stories where the church didn't excel in this, about helping people belong. And at The Rock, I think we do a pretty good job, but we're not perfect. We're not. We've made some mistakes. I was talking to one guy from our church, and he's an active member of our church, so I'm so thankful for that. But his first experience here was a little different. He came in at the 10 o'clock hour, and the service was pretty full, and he was an African-American guy, and he walked in, and he was looking for a seat, and when he saw a seat, and he looked at the person, and they kind of gave him a look, and he's like, well, maybe that seat's not for me, and then he looked at another seat that was open, and kind of got a look, and that seat really wasn't for him, and then he said he eventually found a seat, and his words were, Josh, I know that I belong in church. I know the church professes that we belong, but on that day, I didn't feel like I belonged. And it broke my heart. And I don't believe that the person, at least I sure hope not, that the people there at that service were not offering their seat because of his skin color. I hope they were saving it for somebody who was working in the parking lot or somebody that was coming in late. I get it that happens, but this is what I do know. At a minimum, our posture should always be when somebody's coming in, we should look up, we should smile, and we should say, hey, I've got a seat for you. That should be our posture. It might be like, I'm saving this one for my family, but yeah, sit right there, man, we got you. Or let me scoot in. Not let me like lean back against the chair so they can slide in. No, let me serve you and give you the best seat in the house rather than make you go to the middle. I might start preaching here in a second. Some of you might go, dang it, man, you just stepped on my toe. I've never taken my shoe off while preaching. Now I gotta figure out a way to get it back on. We'll just do it like this. That'll be a whole lot easier. But here's what I'm getting at. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if you were at your house and a guest came in, you'd give them the best seat. And let's just admit it, the best seat is on the aisles. It's not in the middle. Come on. Let's be real about this. Front row. I got to keep moving or I'll lose my place and get behind. But here's all I'm trying to say is we got to be a church where everybody knows they belong because we want to connect you to someone. I mean, that's the whole purpose. We want to connect you to Jesus. I want you to find life in him because Jesus came to this earth and he looked at all those people, rich, poor, black, white, those who had been following God, those who had not been following God. And he said, you belong. So we got to do our part to make sure everybody knows they belong. We got to do our part to make sure that people don't just get connected to someone, but people get connected to some people. And that's the reason we say it all the time around here that, man, you got to get connected with some people. Like this is one thing, and the benefit is where you sit, oftentimes you'll sit around the same place. Well, I hope you're connecting with some people around you. I hope you're learning each other's names, and that way if somebody misses for a while, that way if Andy misses for a while, Rick, you can say, hey, I haven't seen Andy for a while, and you check up on him. You know what I'm saying? Like we figure those things out. But circles are better than rows. What I mean by that is you got to get into a group. You got to get into a group experience. You got to start serving in a ministry where you're either face to face with people or you're shoulder to shoulder, because then you get some people in your life. That's where we got to go. And that's really where that survey was taking us. It was evaluating how are we doing as a church of connecting people to Jesus and connecting people to others. Because that's what we want. We want you to be a community that is connected to someone and some people. But it goes a step further than that also. We're not just a community. We're a community that rallies around a cause. And as communities, as groups, we're always about the cause. I mean, think about pretty much every group you join, it's about the cause. Your family, there's a cause there. It's your family, right? That if you're a fraternity or sorority, that you have a cause. You have a reason you're part of that group. If you're an athletic team, it's about being together. It's about winning. It's about championships. If you're in a political group, it's about the agenda or the platform. If you're part of the PTO group, it's about the school and the kids. If you're an HOA group, it's about making people mad. I have no clue what the next two services will be like, but this has been fun, because that wasn't in the notes either. But every group has a cause. Every community has a cause. And it's no different with the church. We have a cause. Our cause is very simple. That one, God brought us into partnership with Him, with Jesus, and His mission to save the world. And let me go back to 1 Corinthians. It reads like this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 9, it says, God will do this, for He is faithful to do what He says. And He has invited you. Check this out. This is so cool. He has invited you into partnership with His Son. That God the Father has said, I want to be connected to you. I want you to be a partner through my Son Jesus, which means we connect to someone. And when we connect to someone, Jesus, He invites us into His mission to save the world. The crazy thing about Jesus and all that He did on this earth is when He died, rose from the dead, right before He ascended to heaven, He said this to His believers. He said this to His disciples. The last things He said, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything I've commanded you. And then He left. Like Jesus entrusted us as humans to carry out His entire mission to save the world. That Jesus gave us a cause. He invited you into the cause. He invited me into the cause, and that cause is to make disciples. That's the cause. That's the purpose of every Bible-based, Christ-centered church in the world. There are a bunch of churches right here in Horry County that is their mission, and I am so thankful for the work that they are doing, because they're saying, we're just trying to make disciples. And now as churches, we will try to make disciples in a little bit different ways, because not one church can reach everybody. Like for us as a church, we know our purpose, our cause is to make disciples. But through that, we kind of have a vision on how we're going to go about doing it. And how we're going to go about doing it is we're going to say it this way, that we're going to make disciples by helping one more find what matters. That's what we're about. We want to help one more find what matters. And I would probably say it this way. If I could change that, like if I was teaching it, that's our actual vision statement. But if I was to teach our vision statement like I am today, I would say it this way, that we want to help one more, especially this gen, find what matters. And I want to take just a couple minutes before I wrap up to just give explanation of what that really means. It means that we want to help one more person come to Christ. One more person find freedom in Jesus. One more person walk away from their addiction, cry out to a higher power that we call Jesus, and find sobriety. One more marriage restored and put on track the way Jesus wants them to live. One more student finding a place where they can come and explore Christianity. One more young adult to make a decision to say, I am going to live on mission for all of my life. One more child who has wandered away like a lost son to come home and find life in Christ and to find their family. We're about one more. Now, it's crazy. I will tell you right now, I believe at The Rock, we're kind of living in an Acts chapter 2 era. Like the Lord is adding to our number daily. Like literally, last weekend was the largest weekend attendance we've ever had in the history of our church outside of a Christmas or Easter. Yeah, it's crazy. But the reason that number is so vital is not because of the totality of the number, but because each one of the people who came is somebody's one more. Like just Thursday night, like crazy what happened Thursday night. I'm standing in the lobby. A lady like rushes at me, all right? And she's got her friend towing her in the, like running towards me. And I'm like, whoa. And she goes, my one more's at church with me tonight. She was so excited. Literally on Thursday, we had a lady come in the middle of the afternoon. We were just out in the lobby talking, and our high school pastor, Jackie Lee, she saw this lady, so she walks up and starts talking to her, and the lady just pulls out the one more chip. Many of you know what I'm talking about. She pulls it out, and she goes, somebody gave me this and told me I'm supposed to come to church. Right? And so they had a great conversation, and Jackie Lee let her know service was at 6:30, and she came back Thursday night. Here's what I'm saying. One more matters. One more matters, especially this gen. That this church was founded 20 years ago. And when I say 20 years ago, like literally on March 6th, which is a month from now, we're going to have a massive birthday party at our Thursday night service on March 6th. Okay, so I'm inviting everybody. We're going to pack this place out. It's going to be a phenomenal night because on March 6, 2005 was the first service of the church. March 6 happens to land on a Thursday night where we normally do service. So we're going to have a big birthday bash, all right? Some of you might remember K-Lock. He was our worship pastor, helped found the church. He's going to come back that night and lead us in worship. That Gina Lowe's is making cupcakes that night. And if you know anything about Gina's cupcakes, listen, the worship will be great. The cupcakes will be great. The preaching will be okay. It's going to be a good night. It's going to be a good night. But 20 years ago when the church was founded, it was founded by Dirk and Michelle Derrick and Kevin and Polly Childs, and Dirk and Kevin said, we want to start a church that's a little bit more like summer camp, and we'll reach young people. And that has been our passion since day one, because this gen matters. And when we say this gen, that age bracket is 0 to 29, but if you're to think about it like a target, the target is 0 to 29, but the bullseye is 16 to 24. That we're aiming. We're trying to hit that bullseye of 16 to 24. Because this generation, they're not the next generation, they're now. They're not the future of the church, they're the church of today. That we have to lead this church with this gen in mind. So that's the reason I'd say this. I know there's middle school, high school, young adults in the crowd right now. Listen, we're handing you the keys. drive the bus. Drive it. Like, this church is your church, and we're here to help you and to cheer you on. That we're gonna let you lead, and here's why. If you treat students like babies, you'll get babies. But if you treat students like leaders, you'll get leaders. And the church has to be a place where students can lead. And think about it this way. Imagine, I heard it said this way and it makes so much sense. Imagine that if your child said that they wanted to play soccer or football or baseball, and you signed them up, and then you took them to the field for the first day of practice. Justin, I'm gonna call you out on this one. Justin, think about this, because I know you're a soccer coach. Imagine on your first day of soccer practice for all of those kids, if you said, all right, kids, you all sit on the sideline. Parents, you get on the field, you get to play. How stupid would that be? What would happen to the kids? Bored, exactly. And I didn't give him that keyword beforehand. The kids would get bored. And guess what? They'd say they no longer want to play soccer or football or baseball, whatever it is. But why do we do that at church? Kids, you got to come to church. Students, you got to come to church. We really want you at church. We really want you to know about Jesus. And we tell them to sit down, and we put all the adults in places of leadership and say, watch the adults play. Makes no sense. And that's the reason at every ministry, now if you're this gen, listen to this, at every ministry there is a spot for you. That's the reason you'll see students up on stage. That's the reason you'll see students in the tech booth. That's the reason we need students at the doors. We do not have enough young adults, high schoolers, middle schoolers at the doors, all right? I love all of our people at the doors, but we need more young adults and students and middle schoolers at the doors or in the parking lot. We need more in our kids ministry serving, because it's a church for you. I love it, our production booth just last week. I was laughing with John about this, and John's been a charter member since the beginning, and John's my age, and I was looking, I'm preaching, and I'm looking, and John was running lights, and then everybody else in the booth was 21 and under. And when I say 21 and under, there was a 21-year-old and then a bunch of 14-year-olds. I said, John, you're doing a great job. See, John doesn't think he's being replaced. John understands he's getting reinforcements. And that's why we do it. So if you're this gen, man, we need you. I got to be done. Will, come on out. I'm past time. But let me finish. Help one more, especially this gen. Find what matters. Because when you find Jesus, you find what matters. You find that he matters, but it's not just that Jesus matters. You find the other things in life that matter. You find what your calling is, what your purpose is, what your cause is. And that's the reason this cause is so critical to us, because if we don't help everybody, and especially this gen, find this cause, they'll find another cause to follow. You'll find another cause to follow. So I want you to follow this cause. I want you to find something that is bigger than yourselves. And I want you to run in it. In society, sociology, everybody is looking for someone and some people and something to be a part of. And you can be a part of that here at this church. You can find the someone, you can find the people, and you can find something to invest your life in. So today I give you that challenge to invest your life in it, to go all in. That if you've never surrendered to Jesus, man, I pray today that you would find someone, that you would find Jesus. Because Jesus is desperately trying to find you, and he knows exactly where you are, all right? So let me make sure I say it that way. He doesn't like look around going, where's that person? No, he knows exactly where you are. And he's just waiting for you to turn around so he can say, found you. And you found me. Let's get connected. And if you're ready to pray to receive Christ today, if you're ready to take a step of baptism, we have people in our corners that are there for you. We have people in our corners up here that'll pray for you. We have people in our baptism corner that would love to help you take that step. Maybe today is about finding some people. Today's a day to say, you know what, I'm going to start going to YA to find my people as a young adult. I'm going to start going to student ministry because I'm going to find my people as a student. I'm going to start going to Regen or Re-engage or join a small group because I'm going to find my people. Or maybe today's the day to make a decision to say, I'm going to get involved in something much bigger than myself. That I'm ready to jump into the cause and to get behind the cause. And listen, let me just say this, and I don't mean this mean, but if you don't get behind the cause here at The Rock, only two things can happen if you don't get behind it. One, you won't stay very long because eventually you'll get bored. You'll be like, well, they're always talking about one more. They're always talking about this, Jen. They're always talking about find what matters, and it just doesn't appeal to me. So eventually you'll get bored. And if you get bored, chances are you'll leave. Just like the illustration earlier. Or worse than that, if you don't get behind the cause but you stay, well, then you might bring disunity in. Because you'll say things like, I'm tired of them talking about this, Jen. I'm tired of them talking about one more. And we all know disunity destroys the work of God. I'm so thankful that I believe that we are sitting under the blessing of unity at The Rock. I love it. I've never been a part of an eldership that is so unified, and a staff that is so unified, and a church that is so unified. But I believe we're so unified because we have said we've connected to someone, and we've got our people, and we're a part of something that's much bigger, so we're willing to make a sacrifice. Because if you find something, a cause worth getting behind, it will require sacrifice. I mean, think about Jesus for a second. Jesus said, you are my cause. I want to reunite you with the Father, so I'm going to give up my entire life. I'm going to go to the cross. I'm going to die. There's no sacrifice that is too big because of the cause. And that's the same way it's got to be at church. And we say, man, I'm getting behind the cause because it's worth it. Anything that you believe in, you will get behind with your time, your energy, and your money. I believe this is the most important thing you can get behind. So get behind it with your time, your energy, and your money. Why don't you stand with me right now? We're going to go into this time of response. If you need to pray with people, if you need to take communion, you need to take a step of baptism, let's do it. Right now is the time to connect with someone, to connect with some people, and to connect with something bigger than ourselves. Jesus, we come before you. And Jesus, I pray that we will be a community where everyone feels like they belong. Where everyone finds someone, meaning you, and some people. And help us to contribute to the cause. Lead us, Jesus. Help us to be a city on a hill that points people towards you. In your name, amen.